Hey, everybody. Welcome to Perfect Edition Comics. I'm your host, Perfect. And before I get started, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone that's subscribed so far. What? You haven't subscribed? Okay. Let me give you 5 seconds just to click that little red button. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thanks again. Okay, let's get on with the show. Today, we're going to take a deep dive into Scrooge McDuck's Money Bin. That's right. We've got the complete life and times of Scrooge McDuck. Let's do this thing. Okay, let's get started with this bad boy. First of all, this thing is pretty chunky. It's got 2 volumes, volume 1 and 2 of the complete life and times. It's by Fantagraphics. Let's just take a look at the front of the box and the spine. I'll just turn this around. There you go, nice white, clean design. Colors really popping, look awesome. And on the back, you've got this, which kind of takes all different pieces of the 12 different stories contained in the main Life and Time story in book 1. Let me just take another look here, quickly at the box. There's the spine vertically for everyone who's a spine lover out there, and the back again with this semi-gloss finish, which make all these little bubbles pop out, which is a really nice touch for the box. But you weren't here for the box, so enough of that. Let's take a look at these books. So this is a 2-book set, and I'm just going to put the companion one away and take a look at the main book. But first, let's just do a little bit of a size comparison. This is 9 by 12 inches, so next to a regular trade paperback, you can see it's quite oversized compared to that. Let's grab an oversized hardcover. Here's one of the oversized hardcovers of Fables. You can see it's the same height as the standard oversized hardcover, but it's pretty much the same thickness as well, but really it's the width. So you're getting much wider European album-sized pages with this, which is really nice and makes the art stand out. So this is the first book, and on the spine, really nice and clean again with the white, and on the back as well. It's great the way the white imagery, the imagery on the white background really stands out. I like the clean kind of look and feel that they've gone for in the book design here. You got yellow end pages, which again go with the design of the book. So this first volume actually contains the main complete life and times. Well, I shouldn't say complete, but the actual life and times. So you have 12 different parts to the story. They all go in order of time. And the nice thing about this is all of the little portraits here on the left actually match up and correspond to each of the different parts of the story and time in Scrooge's life. Of course, this is done by the legendary Don Rosa, and he does an introduction explaining the history of the story, its publication, and what he was aiming to do. So this story was my first adventure into kind of the duck universe, let's say. I wasn't raised with this. I was actually raised in Africa, grew up there, and for me, things like Casper the Ghost and Archie, some of the DC and Marvel stuff was around when I was younger, but unlike people in Europe and other parts of the world, I wasn't really raised on kind of the duck comics. So this is my first time reading them, and for me it worked out really well. Like, I didn't need any backstory. The story goes from beginning to end and isn't something that you need to be kind of up to date or understanding the history of any of the characters. You can jump right on and really enjoy it from start to finish. The stories in this volume tell the history of Scrooge from when he was a very young child in Scotland, and take you through all of his adventures around the world and how he found his way to being where he is at the end of his life, being really rich and really grumpy, and the Scrooge that we know from DuckTales. And that is the one thing that I know about Scrooge, is I was in the generation that watched DuckTales and loved it and kind of came home every day and watched it when I was younger. But that's really the only thing I know. This one panel I do just have to highlight here is one of my favorites and involves his adventures in Africa. And as I said, since I am an African, I had to point this one out to you. This was one part of the story which really hit close to home and was super enjoyable for me. This first book has a page count of 230 pages. The second book is 272 for a total of almost 500 pages. The page count comes in at around 496. This is one really nice little detail and touch that Don Rosa does. For the beginning of each issue, of the 12 issues in total in this volume, he does these kind of intros that have a map of where Scrooge is in a specific country or part of the world that he is, and a couple of props, photos and things, almost like a scrapbook. And he does this in such a great fashion. It's something I look forward to, where each issue would have this cool little funky art intro piece, reminiscent of something like the Indiana Jones movies, which kind of gets you hyped for the new part of the world and the new part of the adventure and the new part of the life of Scrooge that you're learning about. For me, this was one of the highlights of each issue, and I kind of couldn't wait to see what the next creation was for that specific part of the adventure that Don Rosa had put together. Yeah, let's just jump to the back. And as you'll see, we don't have much at all. We just have a few of the upcoming volumes or previous volumes available in the Don Rosa library. Let's take a look at the second book. So here we go. This is book number 2. That's your front cover. There's your spine, also the clean white, but just with red accents this time. And the back, again, the clean white with the red accents. Really nice and clean design. Love this book design. Fantagraphics did an amazing job on these volumes. Opening up, end pages, again, the red matches the exterior trim. Nice intro page with the credits. And then your table of contents. So over here, you'll see this is the Untold Tales. So this contains, I believe, 12 in total again of kind of the in-between and related stories and a bunch of extras. So this volume, again, has an intro by Don Rosa, and this explains how he actually wrote these stories as in-between stories to the main 12 stories in the first book. So the first book should be read first. You read from 1 to 12, and you understand the whole history of Scrooge and everything he went through to gain his fortune, etc. And then these stories take place in each of the in-between or around each of those different adventures. This book doesn't necessarily need to be read in the order that you see it. You can read it in any order you like. You can read it connected to the stories. But Don Rosa himself explains in the intro that he'd like you to read the first book in total and then come to this one. And if you want to read them in between and coexisting with those stories, that's fine. But this is in the published order. He himself says in the intro he finds it better that from the artist's perspective, you can see the way he grows as a storyteller and how the story adjusts over time and how things go. So these stories were published later. The original ones were published in between 1992 and 1994 by Egmont for a Danish magazine in Europe. They were then published for the first time in English as The Life and Times of Scrooge between 94 and 96. I think Boom put out some hardcovers before these Fantagraphic editions, but that's really the history of this. But these stories in this second volume, I think they started in the late 90s, some as late as 2003 to 2006. So really these in-between stories were done over a couple of decades, or at least a decade, and then published here in total as a companion volume to the first volume. Then we have The Life and Times by Paolo Castagno, and this tells the story of Don Rosa as a creator, kind of goes a bit more in depth into his relationship with Scrooge. All the credits here at the back as well, which mostly are by Don Rosa as he wrote and drew all of this, and then again extra volumes. So that's it. That's the second volume of the Complete Life and Times of Scrooge McDuck. Here's the first one, and let's get this thing back in the box. So that's it. For me, this was a great jumping on point. As a totally new reader to Scrooge and Duck comics, I thoroughly enjoyed this. And so if you're new, if you have any doubts, if you've never read Scrooge before, this is the one for you. It contains everything, the main story in 12 parts with the companion stories as well. Beautiful hardcovers by Fantagraphics in the slipcase box set. It's a must-buy. Thanks again for watching. If you like this, drop a like. Drop a comment if you used to read Duck comics back in the day and you want to educate me as to my lack of duck history and perhaps mistakes I made in this video, go ahead and drop that in the comments. For more details in this book, find them in the description below. Thanks again for spending your time with me. If you like what you saw, please consider subscribing and drop us a like. And remember, stay perfect. See ya.